Hello, I'm Jim Rich. I'm the chaplain at Acts Springhouse Estates, and I'm glad to be here with you for another Acts devotional video. I wanted to pause our Psalms of David study and just look at the book of Nehemiah briefly, because even though it was written many hundreds of years ago, it has important spiritual lessons for us. And I'd like to start with important lessons that we see in chapter 1 of the book. So let me read Nehemiah chapter 1 for you. The words of Nehemiah, the son of Hakaliah. Now it happened in the month of Chislev, in the 20th year, and I was in Susa, the capital, that Hanani, one of my brothers, and some men from Judah came. And I asked them concerning the Jews who had escaped and remained from the captivity, and about Jerusalem. They said to me, the remnant there in the province who remained from the captivity are in great calamity and reproach, and the wall of Jerusalem is broken down, and its gates are burned with fire. Now it happened that when I heard these words, I sat down and wept and mourned for days, and I was fasting and praying before the God of heaven. I said, I beseech you, O Yahweh, the God of heaven, the great and fearsome God, who keeps the covenant and loving kindness for those who love him and keep his commandments. Let your ear now be attentive and your eyes open to hear the prayer of your slave, which I am praying before you today, day and night, on behalf of the sons of Israel, your slaves, confessing the sins of the sons of Israel, which we have sinned against you. I and my father's house have sinned. We have worked in utter destruction against you, and have not kept the commandments, nor the statutes, nor the judgments which you commanded your servant Moses. Remember the word which you commanded your servant Moses, saying, if you are unfaithful, I will scatter you among the peoples. But if you return to me and keep my commandments and do them, though those of you who have been banished were at the ends of the sky, I will gather them from there and will bring them to the place where I have chosen to cause my name to dwell. They are your slaves and your people, whom you redeemed by your great power and by your strong hand. O Lord, I beseech you, may your ear be attentive to the prayer of your slave, and the prayer of your slaves who delight to fear your name, and make your slave successful today, and grant him compassion before this man. Now I was the cupbearer to the king. Well, Nehemiah has several important lessons for us here, and the first one that he gives us is really about the importance of prayer. Because we see when Nehemiah initially found out about the condition of the dilapidated city of Jerusalem and its distressed inhabitants, it literally moved him to tears. And in his anguish, he cried out to God, and he poured out his burden to the Lord, and he asked for success with the king whom he was serving, to be able to take a leave of absence from his official governmental position so that he could return to Judah and rebuild the walls to give the city and the temple protection. Now, I don't know about you, but usually when I have something that I'm dealing with, it's an important issue, I sit down and I make all my plans, and then I pray and ask the Lord to bless them. But here's the important lesson that Nehemiah gives to us about prayer. If you notice, Nehemiah started with prayer first, and then he planned. Prayer first, then planning. And I think that's a good pattern for us to follow, because it's always good to be God-centered, and when I pray and ask God to work rather than to bless my plans, that's really the biblical pattern that Nehemiah is teaching us today. And I would encourage you, the next time you have a big issue that is pressing, instead of sitting down and calculating how you're going to work your way through this, to sit down first and bring it to the Lord. And if you notice, Nehemiah began with a confession of sin, and he also rehearsed the Lord's faithfulness in the past. So those are some important things that we can include in our initial praying phase before we move into our planning phase. Now, Nehemiah does sit down the plan, and we'll look at that next time, Lord willing, in our devotions. But I want to encourage each of us to consider the importance of leading with the option of prayer first. May the Lord bless you on your day today.